Sorry, kind of hit the end of my recording time there. So let me continue talking about ways we can look at websites and analyze the color in them. Yes, Google, I finished with that one. When I was looking for websites that used a lot of color, I used to show ESPN, but like many websites, they've redesigned to a subtler use of color, even sports websites. However, they still use quite a bit of color, but it's not as heavy-handed as it once was. I think we're definitely in an era of more minimal color use, with us focusing on photographs and letting the color come from them, which is a good thing, I think. However, we could still go to gaming websites like this one, and there's many others which use a lot of color. So that'd be an example, I think, of an area where we still use a lot of heavy use of color is in gaming websites. Probably other examples too. I'm sure you could find some yourself. However, a really good use of minimal colors is an example. This website, for example, Cupcakes in Cashmere, a favorite of one of my daughters. Look at all the beautiful white space. Let your eye relax around these items. Careful use of a nice subtle pink and blue. There's actually quite a bit of color, but it's only in certain little spots, and it carries meaning with it. It's used for a good reason. And photographs are all nicely sized also, so they don't become overwhelming. So we could look at the example of this as, I think, a website that uses color well, or you could go to the links in the presentation, of which there is a bunch. All these links over here, I'll let you look at these yourselves. I'll just go to the first one. Okay. Get rid of cupcakes and go to this one. This is a like many sites that have rated other websites on color use and found examples of, or gone through the websites to show what colors they're really using. They are describing these websites as good examples of color use. So the Secret Key website, which is a screenshot of, interesting interplay of colors with the purple, the green, and the orange. And they've actually given you the hex codes for those colors too, in case you're interested in trying some of those yourselves. Scott McCarthy Design, and the hex codes for the color that's used there. El Designo. A lot of these rating websites target the websites of web designers, which are some of the better design websites, or more interesting ones too. Give you the colors. Melon Free, which apparently does not make melons but makes websites. Really neat use of melon related colors here, nice and subtle. On and on. So you yourself could probably find lots of good, interesting uses of color on websites, and you go to websites that specialize in finding those things and showing them to you. And let's continue, shall we? Okay, so we've thought about why you're choosing certain colors, how you rate the colors. But now you have an idea about the colors you want to use. Here's some other techniques you could use, some tools and terms that you have to know too. Using a color wheel, and here's an example of a color wheel, right? Shows us more than just what colors are, like red, green, blue, and so on, right? In fact, we should know the term hue, which is what we think of as color, like red, green, blue. But there's a lot more to color, right? There's all kinds of reds, all kinds of blues, all kinds of greens, and combinations of them. Well, some of the things that make them different are saturation, and sometimes we call it chroma. Same thing. It's the color intensity, how much color is in there. And value, sometimes we call it lightness, which is the light-dark characteristic. In other words, how much white or how much black is in that color. For more about this is a great website, which you see I give you a link to, about the physics of color, how hue works, how saturation works, how value works. So I encourage you to look through this website. Next. Color schemes. Okay, so when we look at colors on a color wheel, as we looked just at the previous wheel, and we'll look at some more in a minute, we could look at just the RGB and go around in a circle and find those things, but probably we want to find more than one color. You have more than one color on your website, probably. A background color, maybe an accent color, color insert heading, colors on links almost certainly. And you have more than one color for links too, because you've got the static link before you click on it, or you hover over it, the hover, and then the visited too. So anyway, monochromatic, that means you choose those colors from like one place on the color wheel, one part of the color wheel. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of a color scheme. It's simple but classic. Analogic or analogous, and sometimes the names change, but is using adjacent color hues. It's similar to monochromatic, but there's more variety. Complementary, the colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. That arrangement, complementary colors being opposite each other on the color wheel, they actually go together. It's a mathematical arrangement between them. Triadic, what if we take three? What if we split the color wheel into thirds? Or we could split it into two complementary pairs, which is kind of like 4 parts. There's a mathematical relationship between opposite colors, complementary ones, between ones that are marked up on the thirds, and this is another way to use complementary ones. And there are more examples of color schemes. Different websites call them different things, but just let it be known you're going to create a color scheme, and you're probably going to pick, I'm asking you to pick a couple of these types, 2 actually, in an exercise coming up. Oh, I wanted to go back again, right? Because I want to tell you about this link here about color wheel, more about the color wheel. This website explains color wheels more and how they work, how they work with color theory. Monochromatic, it's just one part of the color wheel. Analogous, adjacent colors and how they work together. Complementary, opposite colors, opposite sides of the color wheel. And then they also use some different terms. They use split complementary and triadic, and then tetradic. And there's more other terms also that you end up using. Okay, let's keep it going. Okay, and then color pickers. This is a great link to an article about lots of color pickers. Cooler is one that I think is a good one. Many people use it. Here's the article that I was talking about. 28 best color tools for choosing a color scheme. It goes on and on. Cooler is one of the first ones. What is Cooler? Let's get rid of this. Get rid of the article now. You have a link to it if you want to go to it. Cooler is an Adobe-based, here it is, Adobe-based color wheel. I'm going to reload it. All these are free online tools to pick colors. So this is the way it starts. I can choose different, I'm going to choose a monochromatic, which is just a single area of the color wheel. And I can grab the wheel and I can spin it around. I can change the intensity of those colors. And then down here, as I do that, I see, what do I see? Hex codes and RGBA codes, which I could then use in my website. So I could say, oh, I really want a yellow-based website. I'm going to use this color, this color, this color. And then I could keep on changing and trying it. But what I really use is the Peloton color wheel, which is a link also on the website. Sorry, on the presentation right here. This link is called Color Scheme Designer, which is another linked way to get to the same thing. This is the old name of it, but it still brings you to the same website. This is a fantastic color-based website, and I'm going to ask you to use this in an upcoming exercise. But in the meantime, you should really play with it first. You can choose different schemes, monochromatic, adjacent, they called it that instead of analogous or analogic, triad instead of tetradic. There's a tetrad, 4 base colors, and then you can make custom ones too. I'm going to go with these adjacent colors. So I can grab this wheel and bring it around and watch on the right how it changes my colors. But yet I can work on the inside here to change the shades of those colors. And now if I find some colors that I like, I can broaden, by the way, how far away I want to go too. I'm going to go around to where? Something like this. Okay? Maybe, no. I want to get into the blues more. They're blues and greens. But I want to make it a lot lighter. Okay, good. So I say, okay, these are the colors I want to use. Well, maybe I want to preview it or give examples. The examples would be, I click on examples. I could use a white page or a dark page. So this is giving me a mock-up of a website with the colors I've chosen. Okay, so I could use, I don't have to use the colors the way they're suggesting, saying, hey, you could use this green for a heading. You could use this purple for a hover. And it's suggesting other ways to use hover and other ways to use background color and so on. I think this actually would be a very nice scheme. I like the fact that it's very light and it lets me use dark text well. On the other hand, I could use a dark page. It sort of spins things around. It says, well, if I use a dark page, like a dark background, I could use a light text, and then how would I use those colors that I've chosen for that too? Positive design, negative design, other choices you can look at. And I'm going to close this area. I can go to tables and export. It shows me all the colors I've chosen. Good. And I could get them as text or as HTML or CSS. So as text, it's just going to be a chunk of text, and then I get all the numbers I might use in my website. So that's a very useful tool. I strongly encourage you to get familiar with it because you're going to use it right away. Let's keep on going in the presentation, which is taking forever, I know, but just let me continue and say more about CSS and color. So again, we can gang up selectors. Color has a value. Background color is also a value. Opacity can have a value. You read about how those things work. Background color fills a canvas behind. Foreground color. Opacity usually goes from 0 to 1. You can read more about this. Selector type review. It's also time in the paragraph to talk about selectors, how we use descendant selectors. If there's no comma between these, okay, it says only the LIs that are within an OL get this color maroon. ID selectors, this is how we use IDs. We can also use them as descendant selectors. Class selectors, this is how we use class selectors. Universal selector, we've already used it, but just to remind you what it might be. It means everything. Everything gets this color. Styling links. Okay, LVFHA. Lord Voldemort fights Harry alone. And many other memory devices. But this order is really important. You need to have all these styled, and you need to style them in this order. Well, what do these things mean? L means link, and by L we mean a link, which means static state. Before you do anything to the link, when you just look at it, this is how it's going to look, and there's the code. Then we do visited, which is the V, of course, and these are pseudo classes. It's the first time we've seen a selector written this way: a colon, a visited, a focus, a hover. Sometimes we just have a plain A also. We get started off with that. We say all links, text decoration means none. That means remove the underline, no underlining. It's strange that underlining means link in our heads, but these days we usually remove it from the links. And then visited means this is one you've already been to. Focus means it's like hover. Focus and hover are the same idea. Focus would be if someone is using a keyboard to move around the links. Focus and hover are often treated the same. Active is the color that appears or the styling that appears at the moment you click it, which frankly is often we also use that the same as focus and hover. It happens so briefly, it's not that important, but you should include it. You should have it here. Read more about pseudo classes from your text. I'm not sure how much of them you're going to use, but you might use some of these. There's a couple interesting ones here. First line and first letter. Link design best practices. I don't have much time left in this presentation, but I'm going to give you a handout on these. I encourage you to maybe pause this right here and read through them. I think this is a very important information here. And more on link design. In this presentation, here is some links that you can use to go, and you can in fact Google link design. You'll get a lot more ideas about link design. Link design is a huge topic because, hey, links are what the web is all about. So the way we style them is critically important.